Okay. All right, everyone. Looks like we've found a workaround for technical issues. So let's go ahead and get started. All right. So thank you for joining me. Today I'm going to talk about how to talk to business people about cloud native technology. And my goal for today is to make you feel more confident translating technical information to a non-technical audience, a business audience. And I'm going to give you some specific techniques to do that. So first, I wanted to address why this is so important. Business leadership plays a really important role in adopting the cloud and adopting cloud native architectures. The business leadership can keep cloud native a part of the shadow IT. They'll never be able to totally prevent it from coming up in some shape or form in the organization, but they can definitely prevent like a really massive cloud transformation that's going to lead to concrete business outcomes. So here's some survey data actually to back this up. So PricewaterhouseCoopers did a survey of business leaders to see how involved they are in cloud decisions and decisions relating to cloud native. And you can see that even board members, these are the least involved, over 50% of the time are heavily involved in developing the company-wide cloud strategy, which is going to include exactly what shape the cloud native transformation is going to look like. So business leaders are really playing an important role in what it's easy to think of as really technical decisions. So how do we communicate better with them? The first step to more effective communication is empathy. We have to understand what motivates the people that we're talking to. What are they thinking about? What are they worried about? How are they incentivized in their job? What metrics are they evaluated on? And once we can understand that, it enables us to think through a little bit more what we're going to talk about, not just the words that we're going to use, but what we're even going to be talking about when we talk about cloud native technology and pros and cons, or why we should adopt one thing versus another. The next step is we have to understand the business. If we're going to talk to business people and we want to be credible with those business people, we need to really understand the business. So what does that mean? It means where revenue comes from. It means what competitive pressures exist. It means what our competitive landscape looks like. What is our regulatory landscape? What risks does the business have? What are the current challenges that the business has? And then, of course, as technologists, there's something else. We have to understand how software fits in and be able to connect that to these other aspects of the business, how software fits into how our business makes revenue, how software fits into the costs, how software is related to our competitive pressures. And that's when we start to become really valuable and can have really valuable strategic conversations with business leaders about cloud native. There's one last thing to address. We want to use language that business people understand and relate to. So if you're talking to a business leader and you're talking about how we're going to be able to implement blue-green deployments, or we're going to start further automating our CI process, that's not going to make a whole lot of sense. And in fact, they're just going to not really pay attention. Instead, you want to use the language that business people do care about, do understand, and that means connecting it to things that they care about. So here's some more survey data, but this is actually the things that two different surveys were asking related to benefits from cloud. So the first is the CNCF, asking a technical audience what the benefits of cloud native are. The second is that same PricewaterhouseCoopers survey asking a non-technical, a business leadership audience what the benefits of the cloud or cloud native are. And you'll notice if you look at these that they are related, but they're not the same language. So if you talk about scalability with a business leader, they might not make the jump to know that that's going to mean improved resilience. If you talk about improved availability, that's less a word that a business leader is going to be using. Same with shorter deployment times. If you really focus on, we're going to cut our deployment time in half, that's not as meaningful to a business leader as saying, we're going to be able to create better customer experiences, or we're going to be able to innovate on our products faster. So some concrete examples with Cloud Native. This is the sort of before is with Cloud Native, we'd be able to auto scale all of our applications. Great, that doesn't really connect to something that business leaders really care about. Instead, you might say something like, remember the outage we had last month that probably cost us around €1 million in revenue? Well, we could prevent outages like that if we moved to Cloud Native architecture. Now, maybe I'm using this example because maybe that was related to scaling, but the business leader doesn't even have to know, and perhaps doesn't even care what caused those outages. You're just telling them that we could prevent it. It doesn't matter what was causing it. Next, talking about how Cloud Native allows us to increase our deployment velocity. Okay, why does that matter to me? Asked the business leader. Well, because using Cloud Native technology, we'd be able to cut our time to market in half. And then last, I wanted to talk about this because sometimes people will talk a lot about reducing our costs, and this isn't necessarily actually a mindset of a lot of business leaders. In fact, talking overly about reducing costs can make people nervous because we think about technology as a means to innovate, and we want to invest in innovation, and we don't want to reduce costs unnecessarily in a way that's going to make us fall behind. So instead, talk about increasing profits. Everyone cares about increasing profits. Business leaders care about increasing profits. All right. This is a lightning talk, so we're coming up on the end. But in summary, you want to start by thinking strategically. Thinking strategically about what your audience, and in this case your audience is going to be business leadership, what they care about, what they're motivated by, and then thinking strategically about the business and how software fits into that business. You want to focus on business outcomes. So what is it that Cloud Native is going to help you achieve? Ultimately, software and technology in general in a business setting is not an end. It's a means to an end. So you want to focus on what it is what's the end that you get from using Cloud Native and from using your software in general. And then last, you want to make sure that you use language that business people understand. And another thing that I wanted to touch on just before we finish up is, why does this matter to an individual engineer? Well, the reason is that what's really valuable to businesses is having people who can think strategically, who understand how software fits into their overall strategic goals. And so as you move up the career ladder, you're going to be asked to not just have perfect code, but also to think more about what's going to make this software a business success rather than just a technical success. Because ultimately that's what we want. We don't really want just a bunch of technical successes. We need things that are both technically sound and a business success, as in they achieve the desired business outcome that they were created for. And so as you become more practiced and more skilled at doing so, you become more valuable to businesses and other organizations. All right, that's it. If you have any questions, we can do that now in the chat. And if you want to see the slides, I know some of the slides were not super visible, that first survey one in particular, and you can download the slides on my website. And if you have comments afterwards, feel free to reach out by email. And that's it. I will head over to chat and see if there's any questions. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? You can ask it either in the main chat or on the YouTube. Okay, if we don't have any more questions, I'll go ahead and sign off. But thank you, everyone, and as always, if you have comments or questions, feel free to reach out later. Thank you.